Welcome, everybody. My name is Jason Aponte. This is 49ers Twitter Roundtable. The people that are surrounded or around me do not need any introduction, but I'm going to start real quick and try to do that. So we've got Eric Crocker from the Crocker Report, Javier Vega, 49er GM, Niners Nation is represented, Kyle Posey, Akash, Rich Madrid. We've got Grant Cohn from Sports Illustrated. We've got Vish from Blake and Vish Sports. Let's just get right into it, guys. I mean, these people need no introduction, so we'll get into the topics and everything. I know this was, something that everybody was kind of excited about, so we'll start right off the bat. So basically what we're going to be doing is some sort of around the horn type style where, hey, I'll lay up the topics. We'll give you a minute. We'll give you 90 seconds to get your thoughts, and we'll pass them around, okay? Just to make sure that, one, I respect your guys' time because I know you guys are all busy, and two, we keep the conversation going. So we'll start right off the bat. John Lynch goes on the radio. What was it? A week and a half ago, something like that, maybe 2 weeks ago, right? And he flat out says, yes, I expect Jimmy G, as the quarterback in 2021. Says some things about the backup quarterbacks. I just want to know really quickly, and I'll start here. I just want to know really quickly, how much stock do you put into it? And let's start with Akash. How much stock do you put into what John Lynch said?
First off, what else is he supposed to say, right? Jimmy Garoppolo's under contract. He's not a free agent. They're trying to bump up his, trade value amongst everyone in the league. So they have to get everyone else to buy into the fact that they think he's their starting quarterback. So, he's not going to say anything else. I thought it was John Lynch being John Lynch. The interesting thing I did take away from that is they talked a lot about, them being worried about him being healthy, which got me thinking like, okay, they're thinking about it. And his comments led you to believe that they may try to find a veteran backup. But I thought it was more of an indictment of Garoppolo and how they may want to find someone that can just play 16 games.
Right, and I was scared about that too. It's like when you hear about backup, then it's not really a ringing endorsement of the person. So I agree with that. KP, talk to me.
I've never spent so much time talking about a backup quarterback in my life. I don't know why we spend so much time talking about this. Look at all the other playoff teams. Who else talks about the backup quarterback like this? So actions speak louder than words. If they really believe that Jimmy was their guy, they would have done something with their contract. John Lynch said that, we don't need the money right now. Well, you couldn't pull up practice squad players. So yes, you do need the money. So, I mean, it's fairly obvious that he's just playing the media game. He's a media guy. He's great at that. So kudos to John Lynch, but we shall see soon enough.
Absolutely. All right, Grant, talk to me.
I mean, yeah, I don't put any stock in anything John Lynch is saying a couple of months before the draft. But I do think there's a fairly significant chance that Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back. Not because they want him to, but because I think they might feel it's harder to find an upgrade that they can sell to management and the fan base. I think it's pretty freaking easy to find an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo, or at least make a lateral move that's way cheaper. But I think if there's a 50% chance that Jimmy Garoppolo comes back, then John Lynch, I mean, it's smart to at least say this, so to prepare people for that possibility.
Absolutely. Croc, talk to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I put stock into it just in the sense of what else are they going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like they looked into other options with Stafford and maybe poked around with Watson or whatever. But at the end of the day, like right now, that's their best available option at quarterback. So, he is under contract. He has been, kind of a leader of the team. Everybody loves him and whatnot. So I do put stock into it from that perspective. But if they have the chance to move on from him, I feel like they will at the drop of a dime. So I think right now that he really means what he's saying right now. But obviously, if there becomes a better option down the road, then what he said definitely can change.
Okay. Rich, talk to me.
Yeah, I don't buy anything he says. I mean, how many times can we sit here and listen to all the comments they've made all season about the quarterback room? You have guys going back to as early as week 8, Shanahan saying, you'll have to ask Jimmy why he pulled himself out of the game. Brian Greasy saying on Monday Night Football that, Mullins is the smartest quarterback in the room. And then just everything since then that, they're tied to a lot of these names at quarterback that are coming up for trades and other things and possibly free agency. That's just, I think the writing's on the walls. I just don't know when it's going to happen. But I don't know how you can look at everything and take the totality of their comments as anything but that they're trying to move on.
Yep. Fish?
Yeah, I'm really with Croc. I think Croc kind of nailed it. To me, that what else is he supposed to say at this point? Like, who is the upgrade available right now? Deshaun Watson, the Texans aren't willing to move him. The draft is still 2 months away, so they don't know who's going to fall, who they're going to get. They don't know how free agency is going to play out. They don't know what's going to happen with the Dak Prescott situation. John Lynch can't do what Les Snead and Sean McVay did when they said, oh, we don't want Goff, and we're going to make it publicly known, because there's a very real possibility.
He could.
Well, he could. He could, but
have to put your chips all in the middle of the table.
Right.
And I don't think they're willing to do that, because now then you have to do whatever to get rid of him.
Right. And so he's not willing to do that. And so because there's a very real possibility that Jimmy Garoppolo could be the starter come September, week 1, I just think that what else is he supposed to say at this point? And I think that he's telling you the truth. But there's also a very real possibility, as KP said, because they haven't touched his contract, that he's still not the starter week 1.
Absolutely. Javi, take us home. I mean, that kind of says it all, right? Go ahead, Javi. I mean, Javi's having some technical difficulties, right? I can't hear you, buddy. Yeah, I don't know.
I got you. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep. Yes, sir.
At this point, what's he supposed to say? Peter Schrager said it best, but in this moment, there is no win for John Lynch to say anything other than, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo is our quarterback, because that's exactly who he is right now. He's under contract. They haven't restructured him. They haven't extended him. You know, you're coming up on free agency. Of course, your fan base is wondering what you're going to do at quarterback, because Trent Williams is out there. Jason Verrett is out there. What are you going to do to bring back these free agents? And how many times are we going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo in every offseason? How much longer is this going to go on? So, you know, every time Jimmy Garoppolo comes up, I'm just going to take a drink.
Yep. Well, this is it. This is it. So I wanted to make sure that we did this really quickly. I mean, we're going to be talking about a lot of quarterbacks, but this really, I'm going to try to cap this at right here with the Garoppolo stuff. And yeah, I agree with you guys. It's if you don't touch the contract and you haven't extended him at this point, then you're really not saying anything that's worth, you know, that's valid. It's almost like, hey, I'm going to test the waters. If I don't find anything, we're good. We'll go back here. That's kind of what it sounds like, right? It almost sounds like, with Russell Wilson, in his trade demand of, I don't want to trade, but if these 4 other teams pop up, yeah, I'm pulling up to them. That's like almost if you you tell your spouse, hey, I'm not going to cheat on you, but if Sharon down the street says, she's with it, I'm out. That's the type of thing. So
everybody
it's like
got a price.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you can only say what you can say. He's not lying. That's the thing. He's not lying. It's just he can only say what he can say at this point.
And the last thing before we move on is he's covering his ass on this too, because he can say all these things, and if they miss on trading up to get Justin Fields, or if they miss on Watson, or if they miss on Sam Darnold or whatever, they'd be like, see, back in February I said he was our quarterback, because you may have missed on Stafford, you missed on Watson, you missed on Fields, or whatever it might be coming up, with the draft and everything else. But that's just smart by John Lynch. John Lynch isn't stupid. He's a Stanford guy.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the one where right after the draft, he says we knew it the whole time. We didn't consider anybody else. All of that was people were just reporting that. We knew Jimmy was our guy. And then a bunch of people on Twitter start tweeting at Rich and Grant. See, they knew Jimmy was the guy the whole time.
Oh God.
Tim,
you're mentioning
When they
the real
tweet me, I
fire,
just
Rich.
send them to KP.
Yeah, it would be Tim.
Tim _8_. He blocked me, so I don't know.
All right, so let's move on. So speaking of Deshaun Watson, I'm glad you guys brought that up, right? Okay, so we're just going to talk about really quick the potential right now on March 2nd of a Deshaun Watson deal, and what would be the timeline for a trade. Let's start with Rich.
I don't think anything's going to happen until the draft. I would be highly surprised if something happened at the start of free agency. I think the Texans are looking at all possible avenues probably, and they're going to get to a point where they're going to have to pull the trigger on something if that's what they're going to do. So I think the absolute drop dead day is probably the first day of the draft. So you got to think that first round pick's going to be involved somehow. I definitely don't buy that they're not going to do it at all. I think he's on his way out of there.
Okay. KP, talk to me.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen around the draft. The problem with the 49ers is you run a lot of risk, waiting for that to happen. So I say that there's a slim possibility that Watson ends up with the 49ers. But Man, for all when you bring up Watson, the first thing people will say is, "Well, he only won 4 games." You did not watch Deshaun Watson if that was your takeaway, because he was easily a top 3 quarterback this past season. So, I mean, if the 49ers were to get Watson, instant Super Bowl contenders, I don't think that they would, but whatever the compensation that Watson ends up getting, like, he will be worth it.
Okay. Grant, talk to me.
I think it's going to take until after June 1. I was just looking at it right now. The dead cap that the Texans would take on by trading him before June 1 is like 21.6. And after that, it's like 5.4 million. That's significant. So it seems to me that it could be a post June 1 thing, which would be interesting because anyone that trades for Watson then would be trading 2022 picks. So, I mean, if the Niners are patient, if they don't take a quarterback in the draft and it does happen after June 1, they might be one of the only suitors. And if they're willing to trade their first next year, their first the year after that, and Nick Bosa, they might come pretty close. So I wouldn't write it off.
Okay. Croc, talk to me.
I think Grant made a good point about, like, the longer they wait, the less people, that, are available to trade them to. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's going to be – I remember it happening with Dez Bryant, where Dez Bryant got cut after, like, the 3rd wave of free agency. So it's like, well, nobody needs receivers. The draft is coming up. People are probably going to plan on addressing that position then. I can see the same thing happening with Watson, where, the longer they wait, they actually miss out on a lot of, opportunity to trade them. I do think, and I don't know how the whole, like, I know you can designate stuff, post this and post that. I don't know exactly how that works, Grant, or, somebody might know.
Me neither.
But I do know with him, I can't see the 49ers doing it just because they're not desperate. So, I don't think they're just going to go all in and trade a bunch of picks for Watson, because all their actions have shown they're not desperate to get rid of Jimmy. They will, but they're not desperate. So I just can't see the 49ers doing it. If I had to guess, I'd say probably draft day when he's moved, because that's probably the time where the phones are blowing up for Houston. And it's like, all right, we've got to make a move. He still doesn't want to be here. He hasn't reported for any part of OTAs. We got to get rid of him now.
Okay. Akash, talk to me.
So if the Texans front office is smart, and we have no evidence that they are, they would do this draft weekend. So if you're the Texans, you want a known 2021 draft pick coming back to you for Deshaun Watson, right? Like, what do they gain by getting 2022 picks for Deshaun Watson when Deshaun Watson is on the other team, and that pick is going to be in the 20s most likely if Watson's just on a competent team, right? So they would want a pick this year that they know is in the top 10 or 12 or whatever, that they can then use to go get a quarterback or whatever position they want to address, right? I don't think they wait till, after the draft and then, say they trade him to San Francisco for some 2022 picks, right? San Francisco is probably going to be drafting like high 20s, and that's not the same as getting like a top 10 pick for a player of Watson's caliber. So if I were the Texans, I'd try to move him draft weekend. I would be looking at the Jets or the Dolphins because they're drafting 2 or 3, and you could immediately use one of those picks to go get a quarterback and just kind of reset your franchise and move on from Watson. So
that really does sound smart, Akash. I don't think that's smart, but yeah, that does sound smart for real. Javi.
Everything Akash said, Texans would be smart to do that this coming draft. You want to ensure a 2021 pick instead of waiting for the unknown. Because if you send Deshaun Watson to San Francisco, that's an automatic playoff team. You send him to Miami, that's a playoff team, and they're going to be picking in the 20s next year. If you send him to the Jets, maybe you're in the top 15, and because they're still not ready to compete. But if I'm the Texans, I'm looking at Miami and the Jets as the most viable suitors. And a sneaky team that's out there is Denver. What does Denver do? Could they get involved here? But yeah, if the Texans are smart, they would do that draft weekend. If they wait after June, like Grant said, which is very smart too, because you're saving all that dead money because they're bringing in a rookie. You want to have enough money to go sign other players. But after free agency doesn't make sense. But yeah, I would go probably draft weekend. It's got to be the draft weekend, or maybe even before it, right before. I mean, we've seen crazier shit happen in the NFL. I mean, fucking Matthew Stafford got traded to the Rams. Like, come on.
Right. Well, and Brad brings up a good point in the chat about don't sleep on the Panthers as well. Vish, take us home.
Yeah, so I actually have a little different take on it. We've pointed out all the situations of what the Texans would be smart to do. Unfortunately, they're not a very smart franchise, so I don't think they're going to make the smart decision. I think they're going to trade him. They're going to wait till this gets ugly. I think they're going to wait and see if he's actually willing to miss training camp, if he's actually willing to sit out preseason. They might even stretch it to the regular season because I think they want to make it ugly. And what is the philosophy of this franchise? I mean, their former owner or their owner's father has said, don't let the inmates run the prison. Well, letting Deshaun Watson go on his timetable to where he wants would be, according to him, letting the inmates run the prison. Sure. So I think he's going to first make sure that they're going to make sure this gets ugly. There's going to be a lot of, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the part where it's right now sitting pretty. And all people are saying is that the Texans aren't willing to move him. We haven't even gotten to the point where the media gets in and both sides start slandering each other and things get ugly. It's going to get ugly to me, and I think that it's going to be very ugly, and I don't think the Niners are going to be willing to wait on him.
Yeah, that's always been my thing, right? Is that I feel like Houston doesn't want to be told, for the reasons that Vish just talked about, what to do. Like it's so funny, like with the JJ Watt thing, I think it's a little bit overblown because there was a decision that had to be made on Watt anyway, right? So it wasn't like when Watt walks in and says, I want to be released. This isn't 27-year-old Watt. This is 32-year-old. How many games has he played, Watt? So it almost feels like the right decision also. But you have to understand how that looks, right? The optics of it. I walk in and ask you for a release. You say, no problem. I walk in and ask you for a trade, and it's like, no, tooth and nail. We're just going to say no. And again, it's a combination of the ownership, their own ineptitude. And then, Caserio has to eat some of this too because, everybody who works with Bill, they think they're Bill. Right, just because you work with him doesn't mean that your philosophy is just going to fly, and that's another thing that's really got me, hesitant about how they're going to handle this. But let's move on. Justin Fields, a QB collective picture comes out today. Tags Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco, Justin Fields, everybody, right? So here's my question to the panel. Why? Here's my question to the panel. Why is all of a sudden there's so much negative press around Justin Fields now? I mean, I understand it's dead time right now, right? People are looking for things to do, maybe a little bit of over-analysis, right, at this point. But why is there all of a sudden, some news about him that seems to drive his stock down? And I'll start with KP on this one.
It happens every year with a black quarterback, man. I mean, if we're just being honest, it happens every year. He can't read a defense now, or he's a one-read quarterback. But you can watch one possession, like one drive, and you can see his helmet moving, manipulating a safety, manipulating a defender to get to another read. So I don't know why I know why it always happens, but we don't have to get into why it always happens. But it's not going to change anytime soon, so long as the people who are running or who are in charge of the NFL are going to keep running the show. But just to drive the stock down, it could be a team. It could be a team who really likes Fields for all we know. But I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole to it could be a million different things. But it's just another year, man. It happened with Deshaun Watson. It happened with Justin Fields. Now it's going to happen next year. It happened 10 years ago. So just another day, another dollar for the draft season, man.
For sure. I'm glad you said it, KP, because that's what I was kind of leading it to. Rich, talk to me. So one read quarterback. We've heard of the holds the ball too long thing. Can you talk to us about the choice routes and things like that a little bit more and explain real quick?
Yeah, Ohio State runs a lot of they're not really choice routes. They're more like read routes. They're reading a coverage. They're reading what the defender in front of them is doing, and they're choosing to either run a deep post or run a square in or something like that. That's a little different than a choice route, but it's all the same. When you're watching him, he's waiting for receivers to declare at the last minute what they're going to do. And you can see like he's ready to throw, and that receiver, for whatever reason, it hasn't come out of his break yet, doesn't know where he's going to run. And oftentimes, it looks like he's processing things late. And I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, Ohio State's installs that are floating around out there, you can see all the different, for one receiver, you probably have 3 different ways you can run a post route, against cover 3, cover 2, or cover 1. It doesn't matter. It's going to be different in some way. And he's just waiting, holding the ball for these guys to figure something out before they run them. And I'm not a big fan of that style of offense. I think if you get him in someone like Shanahan's offense, where things are a little more defined, you're going to get a lot more play action reads, a lot more routes that are clearly defined and don't have as many options on them. You're going to see a quarterback who will get the ball out on time, has a cannon for an arm, and he can make and manipulate throws at every level of the field. There's no question about that. I'm quite frankly, I'm tired of hearing about the game he played against Northwestern. I went and rewatched that the other night, and I just don't see what everyone sees. I see a quarterback waiting, like I said, and I see a team that relied on the running game. Where have we heard that one before? But no, they gashed Northwestern for 400 yards of running, and I think he only threw the ball maybe 20 times, and he had a few good throws in there. He had a couple bad, but not all these quarterbacks are going to have 100% a good game every single Saturday. They're going to have moments where, they misfire or something, or they throw a bad interception. I mean, it happens. Trevor Lawrence played for 3 seasons. You can probably, Javi, I sent you guys a clip the other day. It was a really bad interception that he had. I mean, it's just a really bad read. They all do it. I mean, you just have to look beyond that and put the scheme and everything else that he does in context, and kind of move away from this. He holds the ball too long. He's a one-read quarterback. None of these guys are one-read quarterbacks. Everything is a progression. Everything has, it fits in some way into their college's offenses. Even running RPOs, you have sometimes in these college offenses 3 reads on an RPO where you can hand off, run, throw, or whatever. So they're all processing things different ways. So if he gets into someone like Shanahan's offense where things are a little more defined, I do expect that he will look light years ahead of a lot of guys coming out.
Okay. Grant, talk to me about Justin Fields.
Why you go to me? I'm going to disagree with Rich. Just trying to.
Well, I mean, that's the point, right? Let's do it. Let's have discourse.
Okay, look, Rich is really smart. I'm not going to disagree with anything Rich said. All I'm saying is basically he's talking to me when he's saying this stuff. He might as well be, because when I watch,
we've already talked about all this.
Yeah, no. When I watch Justin Fields, I see a guy who takes a long time to get from A to B on the field, and Rich just explained it. He explained why, and then he takes a leap and says, okay, so this is why he's doing what he does at Ohio State. On the 49ers, I expect he would process much quicker. I believe he would be. You just don't know. And that's why I feel like Justin Fields is a tough evaluation. What he does at Ohio State doesn't translate to what he's going to be asked to do in the NFL. Not his fault. What he did at Ohio State doesn't prepare him for what he's going to do in the NFL. Not his fault. And so does he process quickly? I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. Rich is saying you can't say he doesn't. I'm saying you can't say he does. There's no real evidence showing him quickly go through his progression. There's no real evidence that shows him consistently know where to go with the ball. It seems like when I watch Ohio State, there's a lot of open receivers on every play, and he's fixated on the first guy he's looking at for reasons that Rich explained. But that doesn't mean that he's going to necessarily process much quicker and better than Jimmy does. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Well,
Akash,
you gotta hang on.
Rich.
Sorry.
I mean, Grant and I have already talked about this, but they're very different offenses. Yes, I agree, and he's not being asked to do the things he's going to be asked to do in Shanahan's offense. But in Shanahan's offense, he is going to get a ton of half-field reads based on the coverage. So he's not going to. They're not going to be asking him to make full field reads, looking for the first guy that's open. And quite frankly, I don't care if the quarterback hits the first guy that's open, because that's a sign that the offense is working great. So you're going to get, in any given play in Shanahan's offense, you're going to get 3 to one side and 2 on the other, and he's going to make a choice based on the coverage pre-snap. We have quarterbacks that read 3 over 2 on one side and start there first, and come back and throw picks every game. It happens. So you can't. You're going to get a different level of play with Justin Fields and Shanahan's offense than you're getting from any of the 3 that we've seen in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, no doubt.
I want to jump in. I want to jump in here too. So Trevor Lawrence, Rich brought up him in 2019. There was like 4 or 5 games where he was not good, like straight. He was not good, and we do not hear about that at all. Like all of those get ignored. As far as Fields goes, if you just look at Ohio State's plays, look at their playbook, their side adjustments from their receivers are awful. Like if a free safety comes down and blitzes, a receiver is supposed to
I see it all the time,
and they have no idea what they're doing. So Fields
it's just as much the scheme.
The
scheme really to beat the blitz and stuff. I see that. I see exactly what you mean. Yeah.
There's a play in the Northwestern game where I think it was that game, or I don't remember which one, but Fields looks at the receiver for a side adjustment, and the receiver just runs straight down the field.
Frustrating.
So he holds it, and takes a sack. So it looks awful on the quarterback, but a lot of it is on Day and the receivers. And,
No question.
That's not to make an excuse for Fields, but that's just what the game goes. So I just want to interject on Lawrence does not get the same type of flack, and Fields has a lot on his plate.
KP,
Well, Lawrence gets a pass because he's
done it. Right. I was about to
He's
say
made man from that moment on, pretty much.
I think it's experience more than anything, right? Because whenever I hear nitpicks about Fields and Lance and those guys, it's always about experience. It's those things too that we're talking about. It's just that those guys don't have the track record. Akash, you just watched the Northwestern game. Talk to me real quick about that.
Yeah, I had kind of the exact same takeaway that Rich did, which is Trey Sermon and the Ohio State running backs were gashing them. I think they were running for like 9 yards a clip. And so it reminded me a lot of the 49ers NFC title game from last season when you're just running the ball so well, it requires less from your quarterback. And I think he had like 27 attempts. He had some bad throws in the game. I'm not saying it was his finest moment, but I'm not going to completely hold it against him. And just, stepping back with Justin Fields, we live in a time where it's like, what have you done for me lately, right? There's like a heavy recency bias, especially with Justin Fields. And this season, Zach Wilson kind of had the shining star, right? Played a full season at BYU, just had more highlight-worthy plays, and everyone was on Zach Wilson's bandwagon, rightfully so. And Justin Fields, on the other hand, the Big Ten was late to get into college football. They had a weird corona-related schedule. They had, canceled games, canceled practices. I think they only played like 6 games. It was just a weird season in the Big Ten, I think. And so that's why I lean more heavily with Justin Fields' 2019 performance rather than his 2020 performance. And I think just overarching, it makes scouting that much harder this season just because of all the COVID-related stuff. But, I think these guys make some fair points when it comes to Fields, especially against Northwestern. And just one more thing, one of the throws in the championship game against Clemson 2 seasons ago, the interception on the last drive, that was exactly what Rich was describing, right? It was the receiver trying to read a coverage. They were on different pages. It ended up being a pick, right? So if you were just box score scouting, you look at his stat line, you'd be like, oh man, this guy had 2 picks. He threw a pick on the final drive. But then you go watch the play and you're like, they were just on different pages because of how Ohio State designs its offense. So
yeah,
that second pick in the game, it looked to me like it was sprint right option and the ball was late. Instead of throwing it when the guy was open, he held it. The guy turned up field and that's the way I saw that play. And again, I don't know. I feel like Justin Fields can do whatever he wants at Ohio State and they win. He can throw 3 picks and they win. He can basically do whatever. And he's such a good athlete. He can run, he can throw. But a lot of times on that one particular play, it was sprint right option and he held the ball. I was like, come on, Justin.
He can do that on the Niners too, Grant. He can throw a couple picks and they win.
Croc, talk to me about Justin Fields a little bit.
All right, so first, I want to kind of go over the Northwestern game. I know, from my standpoint, I just looked at it as not a great game for him, right? I was looking for where's the NFL throws, and I thought from that standpoint, I didn't see him complete a lot of those, whether it's tight window throws or big throws. I thought all those questions got answered in the Clemson game. He came out, and I felt like he made big throw after big throw after big throw, and I mean that was an amazing performance. And even again against Alabama, now it's okay. What's he going to do for Alabama after, that Clemson game? And I felt obviously the game didn't go his way, but when you look at it from a perspective of what type of throws can he make and what was he doing, I thought that was a big time game. I mean, from his ability to kind of okay, not there. Okay, let me take off, pick up a first down. Okay, read option, show the big long run there, has some big throw. There was a throw that was incomplete in the end zone where it was a back shoulder pass that ended up kind of being incomplete because the guy bobbled.
Olave, yep.
Do it. But when you look at just ability, to me, that's the most important thing. What can this guy do? Everybody harps on what guy can't do and whatnot, but what can he do? And obviously there's a lot of big time talent. So I say that to say when you look at guys like Josh Allen, and I know it took him a while, or even a Justin Herbert, you see guys like that. Justin Herbert had a ton of questions with him coming out. I was one of those that was really skeptical of him and Josh Allen. We're watching I watched Justin Herbert against Auburn. I'm man, this was terrible. At the end of the game, he threw the ball at the back of the end zone. I'm you stupid dickhead. How you throw the ball at the back of the end zone? You know what I'm saying?
This season.
You know what I'm saying? And because I want the Pac-12 to win, and I'm saying they had a chance to beat Auburn, which is an SEC school, and they lost that game, and he threw the ball at the back of the end zone on 4th down. I thought that was hella stupid. But I say that to say, when you watch Herbert for the Chargers, I'm pretty sure a lot of what he did in college was maybe different than what the Chargers did, or maybe the Chargers just tailored more of their game plan to him, and he looked like a superstar. And a lot of it, people think that it wasn't just all like, oh, I'm gonna step back, I'm gonna take a 3-step drop or 5-step drop and let it rip. He was buying time, making plays on the move, firing throws in there. A lot of what Justin Herbert did last year was pure talent. And when you look at a guy like Justin Fields, yeah, we can point out and nitpick, oh, well, didn't make this read or that read. But let's talk about the things that he can do at an extremely high level and at a higher level than 90% of guys that are coming out of college. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think when in the perspective of talent, is him and Trevor Lawrence, and that's it. And I think Fields, and I put this out there before the Clemson game, I think he even might have a little bit more talent. Now, is his consistency or what he's asked to do, it might be different or whatnot. But we're talking about somebody that has immense talent. And from that standpoint, you take a chance, because it can be Herbert or Josh Allen or whatever. Maybe it might take time. We'll see. It's like Kyle Shanahan. You get paid hella money. Make it work. You're supposed to be the offensive genius. Get somebody that has all this talent and make it to where you have him like the offensive rookie of the year, like you did with RG3. And I think this guy is even better, like a more willing passer than RG3. Like Fields wants to throw the ball. Yeah. He's not somebody that just wants to drop back and I'm just going to drop back, just like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson can throw, but he's not really like a passer. Like, he's not even like that. Like, Fields wants to drop back. He wants to throw the ball. And so I think from that standpoint, like, Kyle, it's on you. This is all the talent in the world right here. You have no excuses to make. He can make every throw that you want him to make. And now, okay, you got to teach him a read here and there. Do that, whatever. But he has all the talent. So I know I kind of went on the rant, but that's what
you're good. You're good. Honestly, Vish, you made a little face when you saw about Lamar Jackson. Go ahead, talk to me about Justin Fields, though. Forget the Lamar Jackson thing. So
I thought Croc was a little hard. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, the Justin Fields evaluation is totally perplexing to me. I don't get it. It actually reminds me a lot of Justin Herbert. Everybody with Justin Herbert's evaluation, they were like, you watched the Auburn game, you watched the Arizona State game. He was terrible in both those games, terrible quarterback. How many different people said he's an automatic bust? And he might have just had the greatest rookie quarterback season we've ever seen. And to me, Justin Fields is a better prospect than what Justin Herbert was last year. And people are nitpicking on the Northwestern game, and the Indiana game. Well, the Clemson game was probably as good as any quarterback in this class has played. Why aren't we nitpicking that and saying this could be the greatest draft prospect ever because he just had the Clemson game? I don't understand it. It's the most confusing thing. I think everybody's touched on the problems with Ohio State's offense. It was a problem Herbert had last year because Oregon's offense sucks. There's a lot more things, but the one thing I wanted to touch on and what I really like about Justin Fields is, one, I think he's the most accurate down the field thrower in this class, intermediate down the field. People have charted it. The eye test holds true to this. He is so accurate throwing the ball down the field, which is insane because he might have the biggest arm in this draft. So when you have as big an arm as him and you can control the football like him, that's really special. And then the other thing is, in my opinion, and the reason I think Kyle Shanahan will love him is because I think he's the toughest quarterback in this draft. I think he's so tough. And I think one of the things people say about him, and I do want to touch home on this point, and it's something I appreciate about another quarterback who people don't like as much, is his willingness to stand in. Okay, sometimes he can be a little oblivious to pressure and just stand in, but at least he's willing to stand in that pocket. And that's what Kyle Shanahan admired about Kirk Cousins, and that's what I like about, I'll bring up another name, Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones is really oblivious to pressure, but he's tough as nails and he stands in. And you look at, he reminds me a lot of Kirk Cousins, actually, Daniel Jones does. And if you look at Kirk Cousins in the beginning of his career, a lot of his fumbling problems was just the nature of the fact that he was so tough, he was so willing to stand in, execute plays, and look to throw the ball down the field that he just wouldn't escape or use his athleticism when he didn't. And now he does that. And I feel Justin Fields is actually better than both those guys at whatever point at doing that. And I think that him being so tough and willing to stand there is a very good thing. He's so athletic that you can work on him having a faster internal clock, getting out of the pocket. He can do all those things because he's not oblivious to pressure, but you can't teach the toughness that he stands in the pocket with. So I would love Justin Fields. I would be ecstatic if the 49ers get him. And I told you guys before the show, you guys know how I felt about Matthew Stafford and how upset I was when the Rams got Matthew Stafford instead of the Niners. I'll finally be able to cue the Frozen music and start singing "Let It Go" with Matthew Stafford
Yeah.
if the Niners get Justin Fields.
Hey, can I
And
add one more
we
thing
had-
real quick?
Go ahead,
I
Croc.
don't want to act like he's like this perfect prospect or anything like that.
Yep.
I'm just saying, like, I'm betting on the upside. Like, I'm betting on the talent that he has shown that he has. Whereas I can go the safer route with somebody like Mac Jones or somebody like Kyle Trask, and their ceiling is just not as high. So then eventually they'll be in the same position as the 49ers are now, where you're paying somebody more money than what you should, and now you're going to lose pieces around you. With somebody like him, yeah, he can't carry a team right now, but with the Fields, you'd at least be able to put a good team around him right now as you kind of develop him and bring him along. And in 4 years, you can kind of see where you're at. And hopefully, if he's what you think he can be, he'd be carrying the team. Now, again, people flop. I mean, there's always quarterbacks that fail and whatnot. So there's no 100% certainty with anything. But my thing is, he has all the talent. Kyle, you're supposed to be a genius. You should be able to make something like this work. You made a guy like Nick Mullins be serviceable who can't throw a 20-yard out. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and Garoppolo can't either. You know what I'm saying? So, I feel like you should be able to make something like this work.
I want to add one last thing, and real quick.
Yeah, KP.
First of all,
And
shout
then
out
we'll
to
pass
Grant's
it to, and
facial-
right after KP's done, we'll pass it to Javi. My bad.
Shout out to Grant's facial expressions this whole last 5 minutes. He's just hating life right now.
I was like, all right, guys, you go
I'll
for it.
check Twitter.
If we're talking traits so everybody thinks the 49ers have a terrible offensive line. Watch Ohio State's offensive line. They couldn't pick
they're
up the
so
most
terrible.
elementary stunts. Yeah, and Fields, there is no quarterback who's more mobile, who's better at avoiding the free rusher, who's better at hanging in the pocket and staring down the barrel and delivering a throw. In that sense alone, he is like a perfect fit for what Kyle Shanahan needs.
That is
Yep.
true. Look,
I hate-
I
I
agree
hate
real quick.
watching
Oh,
that
go ahead.
offense.
Hi, it's Javi's turn. It's Javi.
Nah, yeah, Javi, take us home real quick. 'Cause you know-
I mean,
No.
I think Croc hit. Yeah, I'm frozen. Can you hear me now?
No, you're back.
yeah, we're good. You're good. You're good.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's gone.
Grant, what were you going to say?
Go ahead, Grant.
Okay, so we all agree that Justin Fields has the best physical tools in the draft, better than Trevor Lawrence, no question. My thing is the processing thing. Rich says you can't hold it against him. I say you can't prove it one way or another. You can't really determine whether he has it or not. And I would consider it processing like a physical gift. I would consider it mental quick twitch. And I don't know if it's something that you necessarily coach up and improve. Like Jimmy hasn't improved. I don't think he processes any better or quicker or more efficiently or accurately than he did 4 years ago. So I'm not saying Justin Fields doesn't have it. He may. I just can't see it when I watch Ohio State offense, and that's Ohio State's fault, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm scared. He's scary.
You've seen Ohio State's offense on the 49ers in 2016. It's terrible. It's the same offense.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
All right, Javi.
Real quick,
Javi, you back?
Go ahead, Javi. My bad.
Yeah, go ahead. You got it, bro.
Javi got that McDonald's Wi-Fi.
My kids are on it. They're using whatever tablets or whatever. But, when it comes to Justin Fields and Kyle Shanahan, I look at he got production out of CJ Beathard. He got production out of Nick Mullins.
Somebody said Javi's recording off of a Game Boy.
Dog, that's
No, all right, come on. Go ahead, Javi.
I just think you have to look at the head coach. You guys are tripping. You gotta look at coach, and if coach can get production out of Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, he can definitely get production out of a guy like Justin Fields or Zach Wilson or Trey Lance or whoever it might be, even Mac Jones, Davis Mills. I'm attaching these guys to the head coach. I know everyone's talking about CJ Beathard or whatever, but he was never intended to be the future of the team. And you're getting production out of Jimmy Garoppolo, who has his limitations. You're adding a guy like Fields with talent, like elite talent. He has elite traits. Go get the guy. And I'm getting tired of it as a Niners fans. Like, we've been through this process for how many years? Since Garcia. It's Garcia. We had a good team, made the playoffs. You can't pay people. Team falls apart. Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, same thing. Build up a team. Can't pay guys. It falls apart. You don't win. Now you're back to the same rotation every 4 or 5 years. Just go get a guy, take a swing. I'll have a little bit more respect for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch if they do that. Like, go up to 3, go take a swing on a guy, and let's go, because your roster's already built. You're ready to win now. Everyone's like, oh, well, rookies don't win Super Bowls. I don't care.
Yeah.
The whole point is Jimmy Garoppolo's 30 years old. Do we expect him to play 10 more years? And Justin Fields and one of these rookie guys are what, 22, 23? You expect 10 years out of those guys. Like, I want 10, 12 years of good football.
What are you tweeting?
Oh,
Me?
yeah, don't look at that yet.
So look,
That's hella funny.
go ahead, Rich.
No.
You look at RG3, who was playing his rookie season on a bum knee most of the year, and they finished, I think, 9-7 or whatever, and won their division and made the playoffs. That with Kyle Shanahan and Mike Shanahan, that team with a mostly injured quarterback was a half away from running the Seahawks out of the stadium in that playoff game until he just buckled in the second half with his knee. So don't even if you can't go to the Super Bowl. Well, okay, I mean, they can make a decent playoff run with a brand new rookie quarterback if the quarterback is good enough, and if we believe Shanahan's what he is. So go, he needs to get the guy you want. I'm like Javi. I'm tired of it too. And even though I'm, mostly engaging in it all day, I hate it. But it just but it is frustrating because Shanahan has a chance now to do it, to get his guy, whether you keep Jimmy, you get his backup in the first round or something, they got to do something. I'm just tired of it. And it's not even the uncertainty or whatever they're going to do. It's just, I'm just sick of talking about all of it. And then I'll be probably right back here tomorrow talking about it. But there's just so many other things we could be talking about. And I try not to engage in it. And then I see it and it's, I can't walk away from it.
Rich is
That's
lying,
kind of been
by
my
the way. Rich will hop in someone else's mentions with no issue at
real
all.
quick. He'll read someone else's thread and then quote tweet you and bring you out. But let me just real quick.
Trying to be
with
nice.
my Fields thing. I've been pretty much out here with hey, look. Those throws are open for 3 different quarterbacks that have been on this roster. Why wouldn't you believe that Justin Fields could hit those throws, those leak throws and all those things? That's been my thing, right? And then it's always from a roster construction basis, right? You're talking about having someone who's cost control rookie. There's no team that's more dangerous than having a cost control rookie while you can have elite pieces around him. So you're talking about, look, again, I'm sorry to get back to it, but we're talking about clearing all this money away while having a quarterback who, again, the drop-off, if at all, would be minimal with so much more upside. And now you can build around that man and let him cook. And that's my thing. And that's always been why, listen, I may be working myself up because when they take a DE at 12, then I can just sit there and say, nice job. You talked yourself into them moving up for Fields for nothing and you just got your hopes up for nothing. But this is really just what I'm talking about. It's never about, oh, we hate this guy. We hate this guy. You have to build a roster that is willing to contend. And how do you do that? You do that when you have that money cleared and you can put more around Justin Fields. This is a great discussion. Vish, you have one more thing and then we'll do last topic and we'll get out of here.
So I feel like nobody ever really rebutted Grant's point, and Grant's points for the reservation is real. Grant just picked his head up and looked at me shocked. But
Grant rebuts his own points, man.
So one thing I did want to bring up is, okay, so Grant's reservations are real, but the reason I don't even care if Justin Fields' process speeds up anymore, I think it's fine the way it is. Let's forget the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, Deshaun Watson draft. Let's start at 2018. Who's been successful since then? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield. Which one of those 3 guys would you say is a very, very fast processor? Let's go to 2019. Do you think Kyler Murray is a very, very fast processor? Let's go to 2020. Joe Burrow is a very, very fast processor, but people had these questions about Justin Herbert being a fast processor when he came out too. And all of those quarterbacks have all shown at some point in their career, maybe outside of Baker, that they're top 15 type quarterbacks in the NFL, which brings me to say that Justin Fields, who I think actually processes better than a lot of them when they were coming out, should be totally fine, especially if you put him in a great offense with his elite physical traits.
Okay, Vish. Go ahead, Grant. And then we'll move on to the last topic. Go ahead.
I would just say that Josh Allen, Kyler Murray are more athletic, or have better tools than Justin Fields. As good as Justin Fields is,
Croc? Croc?
Well, I don't know. His coach told me he ran a 4.38. So I don't know. I'm just
maybe
that's
he
what
did.
his coach told me. And I said it looks like 4.5 on film or something like that. Like, he is fast. His coach said he can run a 4.38. He said if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Matter of fact, his coach played for the 49ers, Asa Jackson. He was a cornerback.
Oh, wow.
So
all right, maybe.
He told me, he was like,
all I know is when I watched Brandon Ayuk on on the Niners, he looked more athletic than when I saw him in college. So maybe Justin Fields will be on an NFL field and I'll be like, damn, he really is athletic. All right.
Look, so look, 45 minutes. 45 minutes, right? This is I'm respectful of everybody's time. Everyone here is busy. Everyone's got things to do, right? So we'll cut out one topic and we'll end on this one, right? Give me your prediction. Game 1. I know March 2nd. It's hard to do this. Game 1, week 1. Who's your quarterback and why? Let's start with KP.
Kyle Shanahan finally hit on a receiver. That's Brandon Ayuk. That's the closest thing he's had to Julio. Because of that, it will be Justin Fields. Because of that, he can actually run the offense that he ran with the Falcons. So think of what he was able to do with Julio and think of what he cannot do with his current quarterback. There are no 15-yard stops. There are no 12 to 15-yard blaze outs. There are no seam throws down the middle of the field. He can't do that because his quarterback cannot make those throws. So the offense is limited by that. So I think it just makes sense because Brandon Ayuk can be that good, but we will have no idea because of the current quarterback. So now is the time. You are not going to have an opportunity to move up for a quarterback because these franchise quarterbacks do not grow on trees. For the first time in ever, it feels like all these quarterbacks actually deserve to go in the first round. So now they're going to have a quarterback. They're going to probably move up for a quarterback, in my opinion. And I'm going to say it's going to be Fields.
Croc, talk to me.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
But why do you sound like that?
Because I'm not happy about it, but just kind of just reading into everything and kind of how they moved over the last few months. That just seems like the most logical thing that they're going to do. I feel like they're just going to be logical. Like I said, they aren't desperate. As fans, we are, and we see like the potential and the upside and stuff like that. But it just feels like for them and Kyle, I mean, he's shown his displeasure. Like we know he's not happy with it, but to me, it's just they're not desperate. So just kind of looking at that, and I just keep that in my mind. Like they're not desperate. They're not desperate. I don't think they're going to do something like that, like trade up. Now, if somebody failed, if one of those quarterbacks are falling, then I could see them moving up. Like, and we're talking about like falling, like pick 10 somehow. Fields is there, and the Cowboys are like, well, we'll trade back to 12. I could see them doing something like that, but a lot of times too, they don't do things that they're not comfortable with. So I feel like they're uncomfortable moving up to pick 6 or pick 7 or top 5 or whatever. They don't do things that they're not comfortable with. And to me, just everything they're saying, they're not desperate with anything. So I just say Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay, Akash.
So I hate to say this, but I agree with Croc. I think it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. The ballsy thing to do would be to trade Jimmy Garoppolo like before free agency or right when free agency begins. Spend that cash to re-sign some of your guys, go load up the roster, and then push all your chips in the middle of the table come draft weekend to trade up to go get a Justin Fields, for instance. But the 49ers just typically don't do that. They're very calculated, and they're run like an economic operation. So I don't think they'll do that. They'll wait till draft weekend and see if one of these guys slides, maybe, like Brock mentioned. I don't even think he has to fall to like 10 if he can fall to like 7. 6 or 7 is that sweet spot with both the Eagles and the Lions. I don't think either of them will take a quarterback. So if Fields or Lance or one of those guys is there, I can see the Niners making a move then and then flipping Garoppolo draft weekend and then use that cap space, to extend guys over the summer or whatever. But yeah, I wish they'd do the ballsy thing and just get rid of him now, but they won't. So
okay,
I want to interject real quick
KP.
Because Eric and Akash, you both picked Jimmy G. Does Stafford going to the Rams change that desperation? Because
that's what
you were able to do against the Rams these last couple of years is not what you're going to be able to do in the next couple of years. So that's why I think that kind of moves the needle for them to make a different decision under center.
That's the same thing that I said.
I'll say no, only because I think they probably feel like at this moment, Garoppolo still gives them the best chance to beat the Rams. You know what I'm saying? Because like they still know they can win games with him. They're probably really confident, borderline arrogant or whatever that with their ability to coach up players and win games as long as they have Garoppolo. So I think from that standpoint, that's still not something that's going to make them desperate.
That's always been my point is that, when 49er fans tell me, oh, we own the Rams. No, you own the Jared Goff-led Rams. You don't own the Matthew Stafford-led Rams. That's not the same thing, right? Sean McVay doesn't have to be in Matthew Stafford's ear until the last few seconds. So, Vish, talk to me. They mentioned Stafford. Go for it. Who's the quarterback week 1?
I mean, it's like, come on, you're all playing some sad music, mentioning Matthew Stafford to the Rams, just making someone just it's hurtful. But I'm gonna say Sam Darnold. I wouldn't be very happy with it, but I think that's gonna be the move. And unfortunately, I think that the Niners are going to end up making a move this offseason. I just think they've it's self-inflicted. Their situation is self-inflicted, and they've put themselves in an impossibly difficult situation. And I think the biggest thing it's going to come down to with Jimmy Garoppolo is the fact that they can't trust that he's going to play 16 games for them. And that's a real big problem. And because of that, I think the only move that's going to be available for them is Sam Darnold. They're going to hope they can turn him around in training camp and get him ready to go start week 1. But that's what I'm going to go with. But just before I let it go to Grant or Rich or Javi, just for the sake of speaking it into existence, to coin the phrase that LeVar Ball has used, I was using it with Matthew Stafford. I'm going to speak Justin Fields into existence, so I'm going to say Justin Fields.
And to
we
be
got a
fair,
terrible track record doing that.
Right, but to be fair too, Croc's got one too. Let's mock it into existence. I'm about to do all these PFF mocks, and I'm gonna make sure that we mock it into existence. Grant, talk to
me. Out better.
Grant, talk to me. Week 1 starter.
Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think that they're going to trade up for Justin Fields or any quarterback. I just don't think that's how Kyle Shanahan works. Maybe you could argue it's what he should do. I don't think it's what he will do. I think that if Justin Fields falls to 12, they might take him. If Mac Jones falls to 12, they might take him. Same with Trey Lance, but I'm not sure any of those guys are going to fall to 12. It seems like there might be 5 quarterbacks who go top 8. So if the Niners, in that case, I think they'll probably bring back Jimmy Garoppolo, draft a quarterback in round 2 or round 3, and he'll start the season as the starter, but may not finish it.
Okay.
Real quick, Grant, what's the 49ers record with Jimmy as a starter next year?
What is it? 9-8? 9-8.
No,
that sounds so weird.
I was about to say
8-9. Were you something like that? Something like that.
Yeah.
They're kidding themselves. But I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're basically terrified to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and not have a proper replacement and look dumb. And so what they're just going to do is let Jimmy basically get himself cut or traded.
All right.
But if Jimmy keeps getting hurt, then you can't move on.
Javi and then Rich when you finish, and then we're done.
I'm going to go Justin Fields. I think the Niners surprise people. I think they make a trade with Jimmy Garoppolo before March 17th. I think they make a trade to get up into the top 5 before March 17th. So that way it's all about timing with this. Like I keep bringing up, it's all about the timing. March 17th come around. That's the start of the new league year. Niners don't have enough money to re-sign Trent Williams at this point. You need to free up that money. And I think you can make a move with Miami to get to 3, take Justin Fields at 3. He'll be your week 1 starter with, Andy Dalton as your backup.
Fitzpatrick. Let's
Fitzpatrick.
Let's talk Fitzpatrick into it.
My thing is, when are the Niners going to be?
I like when Rich said I refuted my own point. That was good. That was a good line.
That's a good question, Javi. That's a good question.
It is. Rich?
Last week on a show with KP, I said Jimmy Garoppolo. This week, I've changed my mind, and I'm going with Justin Fields. The quarterback collective thing, that's my personal QAnon. So I believe every conspiracy theory around that, why they tagged him. I mean, I'm sure they tagged him because he's in the photo, but
they didn't tag any of the other guys.
It was a little too on the nose for me to just, write that off. I think it will be Justin Fields. I think the more I get into his tape a little bit, the more that he has a connection there with them. I think it could be him. I think it needs to be him. If they're not going to make a trade for Watson or anything, that's what the fan in me really wants. And I'm trying to blend that in with a little bit of being a pseudo analyst on that one, but I would not be surprised at all if it's Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, obviously I hope it's not, it shouldn't be ever. It's like the 4th or 5th one on my list of preferences, but I really I'm changing my mind on this one and saying Justin Fields.
Okay, get Croc.
I think the fact that they tag like the 49ers and everybody into that QB collective thing lets me know that they have no idea what Kyle wants to do. I feel like if they knew Kyle wanted to trade up for a guy like Justin Fields, then they wouldn't do that. Remember last year, it was Chris Sims talked about how he knew Kyle really liked Brandon Ayuk, so he purposely did not mention it on the podcast about Kyle being high on Ayuk or anything like that, so it's off of anybody's radar. I think this is the same thing. This is a similar situation.
Also, Fields' stock is dropping, so by connecting Fields to Kyle Shanahan, maybe that'll get people to look at Fields differently. He's not just an Ohio State quarterback; he's a Kyle Shanahan quarterback. He's more than that.
Vish.
I had a different angle of it. Like, I agree with Croc. I think that's right on. If his agent knew that Kyle Shanahan wanted Justin Fields, he would not be doing this, knowing that Javi has discovered their secret relationship and Niners Twitter is constantly retweeting and quote tweeting.
Well, actually, that's a great point you made. If it's the agent, then he could use the 49ers as leverage for other teams to take him higher. So, I mean, that's kind of a different perspective on it. If it's the agent, if the agent's like, oh, I think the 49ers are interested, tag him in this post, whatever, then other teams can be like, damn, 49ers are interested. Let's make sure that we either stay up or draft him higher. So if it's the agent that's kind of using this as leverage, then that could be the case. But if it's QB Collective, who kind of like maybe the mouthpiece for Kyle Shanahan or whatever, then I think they absolutely have no idea what Kyle wants to do.
So,
Bobby? So the QB Collective is ran by Richmond Flowers. That is Kyle Shanahan's agent. Justin Fields' agent is David Malgetta, same agent as Deshaun Watson. So that's that. That's what that is.
So
Vish.
So I was coming from that perspective, right? You know what I think it actually is? I think it might be an indication of maybe where Justin Fields' preferred landing spot is. I think that's something that hasn't been looked at. Maybe Justin Fields puts it out there like that because he would like to play for the 49ers. He would like to play for Kyle Shanahan. It's a little wishful thinking. It's a little more out there. But I think that maybe there could be something to that.
My take was just that Kyle Shanahan told Richmond Flowers that he liked Justin Fields. Richmond Flowers wouldn't tweet that. I just think Flowers it was kind of out of the blue. It's their first class of high school quarterbacks that are draft eligible. I didn't think too much of it. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Come on, man.
He likes him. He does him no favors by saying he likes Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Up until now, outside of Mel Kiper, every draft analyst has talked about Trey Lance or Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, but no one's really connected Fields and Shanahan outside of Mel Kiper. So it would make no sense to bring more attention to it if you're Richmond Flowers. I just think he doesn't know.
Which I don't think Mel Kiper is talking out of his ass. I don't think he just randomly mocked it. I don't think it's random.
It's not.
I'll say that. Not saying that it's to, but I think like he's somebody that's been around long enough to where he has to like hear different things. Like even if it's just noise or whatever, I feel like he has heard something to the extent of, well, the 49ers wouldn't mind moving up for Fields. Like even if it's not, something.
They're at 7. Yeah.
So look, guys, we're almost at an hour. I tried to keep it at the sweet spot of 45 minutes. I want to say thank you to everybody for giving me a little bit of your time. I know that everybody enjoys the discussion because of who you guys are and your stature. I wanted to bring together a group that, one, forces me to think, two, makes me learn. And that's what I do from each of you guys, whether it's interacting, personally or through your own work, right? So anybody who knows anything about 49ers Twitter knows that these guys are the guys who, are at the forefront of all of the material. And it was important for me to get these guys together. This was something that I thought I could never do. And it was, it's amazing to be surrounded by you guys and everything. So I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts and everything as well. I mean, if you guys are available, maybe we can set this up semi regularly, but we'll talk down the line and everything too. So, look, Croc, you've got your podcast. Everybody, so I'm gonna go around one more time. Everybody, tell everybody what you got working on and what you can promote. So, we'll go Croc, Grant, and then we'll just go around. Everybody just go ahead and talk about what they need to promote.
Oh yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the Strike and Go podcast with myself and my guy Rob Louder. Also subscribe to the Crocker Report podcast and subscribe to my Patreon account, patreon.com/croctalk. Make sure you guys subscribe to the MVP tier. All right, it's $10 tier. All right.
Thanks, Croc. Grant.
I just make slow motion highlight videos of Mike McGlinchey's best plays, and I put it.
Oh, come on.
That's my contribution to 49ers Twitter. That's it. What do you guys do?
And Akash and KP, you guys just finished your latest episode, right, of the Shannon Plan? Is that coming out soon?
Yeah, that'll be out tomorrow, man. I'm working on just QB and cornerback rankings. Those will be out later this week. I saw.
Don't put Surtain anything other than one.
Oh my goodness! And
yeah.
Whoa, Croc.
He's gonna be lower than where you had him for me. So I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm ready for it. But I understand that, if it's not what they see on the internet, they're going to disagree with it. So I'm not too worried about that. Last year we did the same thing with Cam Dantzler, and how did that turn out? So go to NinersNation.com so I can feed my family. That's all I got.
Absolutely. Akash?
So I do the podcast with KP, so subscribe to the Shannon Plan podcast. There's some other dudes on the network that do a pretty good job too, so go listen. And go read our stuff at NinersNation.com. My contribution to Niners Twitter is quote tweeting Grant with the little.
Well, actually, you're really wrong.
That's hilarious. I love that video. It's from Succession, I think. Hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah. Vish?
Yeah, so first, I wanted to thank you, Jason, for giving this opportunity. All of you guys are people I look up to and have learned a lot from in the past. It was super cool to do this with you, so I appreciate that. Two, just a question for Croc. Have they apologized to you about CJ Henderson being over Jeff Okudah yet?
Nah, they
never.
not,
no, they're not gonna. So
they,
look,
nah,
I was right there with you, Eric.
They whisper your your successes, but they yell your failures, bro. They're never gonna come back and apologize when you're right.
Right, and then
he doesn't tackle well enough. So
what? The corner.
So hey, I say all the time. A coach once said, I pay cornerbacks to cover, not tackle.
That's right.
If they tackle, it looks cool and all that, but nobody cares about any of that shit. You got to be able to cover.
And they wouldn't listen to you. They're like, "No, Eric, you don't know what you're talking about." It's like,
and I'll tweet that.
Tackling didn't
Alex
get me there. I
Gibbs
promise you.
I'll tweet that Alex Gibbs audio at Croc all day about how corners don't tackle. That's why we run right at them.
I'm going
so after this, I'm writing for Niners Nation. I haven't done anything since the end of the season because I was kind of burnt out by it. So I'm kind of itching to get a couple pieces done in the next couple of weeks before free agency. So that's what I'm working on. Looking at the offensive line, why they need to re-sign Verrett somehow, if any way, and then some quarterback stuff that I've been doing on Twitter, and probably a brief couple of pieces on the quarterbacks for Niners Nation. Those will hopefully all be out sometime right around free agency as I get back in the swing of things. So that's where you can find that stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was just finishing. So you can find me. I do a show on Mondays with everybody's favorite beat writer, the infamous Grant Cohn, who's right here with us. So we do that show. And then you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Blake and Vish Sports. Me and my buddy Blake just kind of talk about our own sports thoughts. And then finally, everybody's talking about their contribution to Niners Twitter. I'm not exactly sure I've discovered my niche yet, like the rest of you, but I would say that I'm an elite liker. I like a lot of tweets, so I would say that that's something I do well.
Vish, man. Javi, talk to us, man.
You know where to find me on Twitter. Fourth and Goal podcast with me and Matt Barr, everyone's hated co-host, apparently.
The basement bloggers and podcasters.
Yeah, whatever. CEO, I guess you can call me, of the ROC. I mean, the 49ers gold mine. We're start clicking on content daily, 2-3 pieces a day. I think everyone's appreciating that. Do a lot of graphics. My niche on 49ers Twitter, I guess, is QB Collective now, and doing some overlays with Kyle Shanahan next to other quarterbacks besides Jimmy Garoppolo. Those are pretty elite, where he's just dreaming of somebody else. But for the record, I don't hate Jimmy Garoppolo. He's probably a nice person. A great guy.
He's a nice person.
He is. And he's done very well for the 49ers, got him back to the promised land. As a fan, I don't want to go through the cycle again of having 3-4 years of good play, and then we're back to fucking Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula type shit. So, like, relax on my mentions. Like,
So look, again, I want to thank you guys. Like I said, I respect you guys so much. Like I said, one way or another, whether we interact personally or it's through your work, I learn from you guys all the time. So I'll plug my stuff real quick. Sprint Right Option podcast with Andrew Pasquini. And yes, I'm writing for 49ers Gold Mine. And I don't even know. I think my niche on 49ers Twitter is just memes at this point right now. Like I think I'm an elite like video guy, like where I come up with the good memes and stuff like that. So look, guys, this was incredible. I want to thank you guys for your time. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. And if we get this together again, hopefully, but you got to understand these are busy men, they're in high demand. So I'll try my best to do it again, but this was a blast. We went for almost an hour.
Next time, if you get East Bay Chris, I'll be impressed. If you can get East Bay Chris,
but I can't. You're East Bay Chris, Grant.
Hey, dox him though, can we?
He's talking. How could I be?
Grant, I saw your fingers kind of moving. You were typing there from your burner while you're on here. I see it.
Come on, man.
Anyway, thanks for having me, Jason. This was a lot of fun, man.
No, thank you guys. And yeah, if I can pull this together again and you guys are all available, I'd love to. But, we'll cross that when we get there. But for everybody else, thank you for tuning in and go Niners.